that subscribe button now.
Listen carefully, honey. I want to tell you about a night in New York that I'll never forget. It was a freezing November evening, the kind where the wind off the Hudson River feels like it's slicing right through your coat. I was standing in a gallery in Chelsea, surrounded by people in expensive black turtlenecks, sipping lukewarm champagne. And it was supposed to be my big moment, a project I had poured 6 months of my life, my sweat, and quite a bit of my savings into. I had curated this entire experience, convinced it was going to be the next big thing. I walked in feeling like the queen of Manhattan, but within an hour, the silence in that room was deafening, and no one was buying the vision. The critics were whispering, and not the good kind of whispers. Now, I could see the pity in my friends' eyes. By midnight, I wasn't a visionary. I was just a woman standing in a cold room with a lot of unsold art and a very bruised ego. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me whole. I wanted to delete my existence. But as I sat on the curb outside, waiting for a yellow cab with my heels in my hand, I realized something that changed my life forever. That shatter you feel when you fail? It's not the sound of your life ending. It's the sound of the shell breaking so the real you can finally breathe. And because let me tell you, sweetie, failure is not the opposite of success. It is the very data you need to build it. You see, falling down isn't the part you should be ashamed of. The only thing that's truly embarrassing is choosing to stay on the floor when you have the strength to get back up. Look at you, sweetie. You're paralyzed, aren't you? And you have that brilliant idea, that dream tucked away in your heart, but you haven't taken a single step. Why? Because you're terrified of the messy middle. You're stuck in what I call the golden cage of perfectionism. You think that if it's not flawless from the very first second, it's a disaster. You think that if people see you stumble, your reputation is ruined forever. But wake up, honey. That cage you've built for yourself is made of ego, not excellence. Now let's reframe this whole thing, because I need you to understand the why behind the ouch. In my years of navigating the cutthroat business world, and even more cutthroat social circles, I've learned that failure is actually just intellectual data. Imagine you're a scientist in a lab. If an experiment doesn't work, do you sit in the corner and cry about how you're a terrible person? No, you look at the test tube and say, interesting, that combination caused an explosion. Now I know not to do that again. And that's exactly how you need to treat your life. Every no you get, every project that flops, every relationship that doesn't work out, it's just a piece of information. It's the universe telling you, not this way, sweetie. Try that way instead. A life without mistakes is a low-quality life because it means you're playing it so safe that you're not even in the game. You're just a spectator in your own existence. Listen, if you aren't failing at least once a month, you aren't growing. You're just repeating the same year over and over again. I used to think that successful people had some magic secret, but the secret is just resilience. They have a different relationship with the word no. To them, it doesn't mean you aren't good enough. It means next option. Developing this mindset is like building a muscle. The first time you fail, it feels like a heart attack. The 10th time, it feels like a stubbed toe. The 100th time, it feels like a Tuesday. You start to realize that you are separate from your results. Your value doesn't go down just because your bank account or your ego took a temporary hit. I remember another time, years later, when I was much more established. I had this grand plan for a boutique consultancy. I had the office, the fancy stationery, the whole 9 yards, and it failed. Miserably. Within 8 months, I had to close the doors. But this time, I was a pro. Instead of hiding in my apartment for a month, I threw a closing party. Now, I invited everyone, my former clients, my colleagues, even my competitors. I wore my favorite vintage Chanel suit, served the best gin and tonics, and I stood in the middle of that room and said, well, that didn't go as planned, but look at what we learned. I showed them that I wasn't defeated by the circumstances. That is the art of the elegant fall. And you see, when you fall in public, and eventually you will, how you get up determines how people treat you. If you act like a victim, if you crawl away in shame, people will remember the failure. But if you stand up, brush off your knees and say, that was quite a tumble, wasn't it? Here's what's next. People will remember your strength. They'll be inspired by your grace. I've had people hire me years later specifically because they saw how I handled that business closing. They said, I want someone who knows how to handle a crisis without losing their cool. Your failures are actually your greatest credentials if you have the guts to own them. Don't try to hide the cracks in your story, honey. That's where the light gets in. That's where the character is built. Yeah, and a person who has only ever known winning is fragile. They break at the first sign of trouble. But a person who has been through the fire and come out smiling, that person is dangerous. That person is unstoppable. So how do we actually do this? How do we fail like a pro in real time? I have a rule for you, the 24-hour morning rule. When something goes wrong, you lose the job, the guy ghosts you, the investment disappears, you get exactly 24 hours to be a total mess. cry, eat the ice cream, stay in your pajamas, tell your best friend how unfair the world is. Really feel it, don't suppress it. But the moment that clock hits the 24th hour, you stop. You wash your face, you put on some lipstick, and you sit down with a notebook. You ask yourself 3 questions. What was my role in this? What is the one thing I can learn from this? And what is my very next move? This is called a pivot. A pro doesn't dwell on the why me, they focus on the what now. You have to move from emotion to strategy. If you stay in the emotion too long, you become bitter. If you move to strategy, you become better. And remember, sweetie, you don't need to explain your failure to everyone. No is a complete sentence, and it didn't work out is a complete explanation. You don't owe anyone a play-by-play of your mistakes. Just take the data, leave the drama, and move on to the next chapter. The world has a very short memory for your failures, but a very long memory for your persistence. It's about the recovery, not the fall. You need to develop what I call bounce-back ability. The faster you can move from oh no to okay next, the more successful you will be. That is the secret of every great person I've ever met in my life. They aren't smarter than you, they just get over things faster. As we wrap this up, I want you to look at your life differently. Think about all the things you were so embarrassed about 5 years ago. Do they even matter now? Probably not, they're just stories you tell over drinks. Your scars aren't something to hide, they are your real resume. Anyone can have a list of achievements, but your scars prove you have resilience. They prove you've been in the arena, they prove you've lived. The people I admire most aren't the ones who have never failed. They are the ones who have been knocked down, dragged through the mud, and still had the audacity to stand up and ask for more. You have that same fire inside you, honey. Don't let the fear of a little bruise keep you from the grand adventure. Remember, falling down is just part of the choreography of life. It doesn't mean the dance is over. It just means it's time for a spectacular recovery. You are doing so much better than you think you are. You're learning, you're growing, and you're becoming the kind of woman who can handle anything the world throws at her. Don't be afraid to be messy. Don't be afraid to be wrong. Just never ever be afraid to try again. Because your auntie is right here, cheering for you every step of the way. You've got the grit, you've got the grace, and now you've got the plan. Go out there and make some spectacular mistakes, and then show the world how to fix them with a smile. You're doing better than you think. Your auntie loves you. See you next time.